Most people think that when a Sigma male is hurt, betrayed, or disrespected, he will eventually strike back. They expect anger, confrontation, or some dramatic blow to balance the scales. But the truth is far more unsettling. A Sigma doesn't seek revenge because he operates on a level where revenge becomes unnecessary, even irrelevant. Instead of wasting energy trying to teach someone a lesson, he slips into a silence that teaches a far deeper one. His response is not loud, not emotional, not reactive. It's the kind of response that forces the other person to confront themselves. What people don't understand is that a Sigma's real power doesn't show up in retaliation. It shows up in withdrawal, detachment, and evolution. While others chase conflict to feel strong, he rises above it by choosing clarity over chaos. He knows that the moment he stops engaging, the other person loses every ounce of influence they once had. His absence becomes the punishment. His growth becomes the closure. And his silence becomes the mirror that exposes the truth more brutally than revenge ever could. Before we dive in, tell me something. Have you ever walked away from someone, not to hurt them, but because you refuse to lower yourself to their level? Comment "Beyond" if you relate, and subscribe to UltraWise if you want more psychological insights that reveal the power of staying above the noise. He understands that revenge keeps him tied to the person who hurt him. A Sigma male learns early that the moment he plots revenge, he is no longer acting from strength but from attachment. The person who hurt him still occupies mental space, emotional space, and psychological space. And for a man who values his autonomy above everything, that is the real loss, not the injury itself. He knows revenge is a cord, a connection, a chain disguised as power. It requires thinking about the person, reliving the pain, and feeding the very wound he wants to close. So instead of chasing payback, he chooses something far more strategic: detachment. He breaks the connection by refusing to fuel it. The other person becomes irrelevant, their actions insignificant, their influence erased, not by retaliation, but by his refusal to keep the bond alive. He sees how revenge traps people in cycles they can't escape. While others obsess over making it fair, he steps back and watches how trying to destroy someone often ends up destroying the avenger instead. Revenge demands time, emotion, planning, and ego, all of which drain energy from the very place he needs it most, his own evolution. A Sigma male isn't interested in being stuck in someone else's story. He doesn't want the role of the victim or the villain. He'd rather leave the entire narrative behind and write a new one where the person who hurt him no longer even exists. This is his quiet psychological advantage. He wins by refusing to stay on the battlefield long after the war is meaningless. He also understands something deeper, that revenge almost never changes anything. It doesn't heal. It doesn't undo betrayal. It doesn't erase disrespect. The world has its own way of balancing things, and he trusts that more than he trusts emotional impulse. People eventually face the consequences of their choices without his involvement. He doesn't need to intervene or manipulate fate. Life is already structured to expose the truth in time. So instead of retaliating, he returns to himself. He invests in growth, discipline, and clarity, the areas that truly elevate him beyond anyone who tried to diminish him. And when he walks away without reacting, something powerful happens. The other person feels the weight of their actions far more intensely than any revenge could deliver. His silence becomes the lesson. His distance becomes the closure. His indifference becomes the punishment. By refusing to tie himself to the past, he frees himself to rise into a future the other person will never be part of again. He values his peace more than the satisfaction of getting even. A Sigma male understands a truth most people never learn. Revenge feels good for a moment, but peace feels good forever. That temporary rush of getting even fades quickly, leaving behind the same exhaustion, the same frustration, the same emptiness that started the conflict in the first place. But peace? Peace is long-term. Peace is stability. Peace is something he can build a life on. So when he's wronged, he doesn't get pulled into the emotional storm that traps so many others. He doesn't waste nights replaying the betrayal or fantasizing about payback. He steps back, breathes, and chooses the path that protects his inner world rather than the one that feeds his ego. For him, the real victory is not proving someone wrong. It's refusing to let them disturb the equilibrium he fought so hard to create. This decision comes from experience, not theory. He's seen what happens when people chase revenge. They become consumed by the very person who hurt them. Their mind becomes a battlefield. Their identity becomes tied to the conflict. They trade their peace for a moment of emotional satisfaction that solves nothing. A Sigma refuses to let anyone hold that kind of power over him. His peace is the center of his strength, the foundation of his clarity, the place where his intuition sharpens and his goals align. Revenge drags him out of that center, while letting go brings him closer to it. So he chooses to let go, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. He knows peace is not something you wait for, it's something you defend. He also realizes that people who harm others are already living with their own internal chaos. They carry insecurities, guilt, fear, and unresolved wounds that eventually come full circle. They don't escape the consequences just because he stays silent. Life has a way of returning energy to its source, and he trusts that more than he trusts emotional reaction. By valuing his peace over retaliation, he protects his time, his focus, and his emotional bandwidth, the very tools he needs to continue evolving while the other person remains stuck in the same destructive patterns. In the end, the Sigma's refusal to seek revenge becomes its own form of power. Others expect anger, confrontation, or emotional fireworks, yet he gives none. His calm unsettles those who thrive on chaos. His silence exposes those who need drama for validation. And his peace becomes a reminder that he's already won, not by fighting back, but by refusing to let anything pull him down to the level where revenge seems worth it. He chooses peace because it preserves his strength, protects his future, and keeps him aligned with the man he is becoming, not the one someone else tried to break. He lets karma and natural consequences do the work for him. A Sigma male understands that the world has a rhythm, a cycle, a balance that never truly fails. People think they can manipulate outcomes, escape accountability, or outrun the weight of their own actions, but life has a way of circling back. He's watched it happen too many times to believe otherwise. Someone lies, and eventually they trip over their own web. Someone uses others, and eventually they lose what they were trying to control. Someone betrays trust, and eventually they're left alone in the same emptiness they created. A Sigma doesn't interfere with this natural justice because he knows it always arrives on time, even if it arrives quietly. The moment he steps back, the universe steps in, and he's learned that its response is far more precise than anything he could orchestrate. Letting karma work doesn't mean he's passive. It means he's patient. He knows that every person exposes themselves through repetition. A manipulator manipulates again. A liar lies again. A disrespectful person disrespects again. And eventually, the pattern collapses on its creator. When he withdraws and stops feeding energy into the dynamic, the other person is left alone with their own behavior. And that's when the consequences hit the hardest. Without distractions or excuses, they must face the reality they built. The Sigma doesn't have to lift a finger. He doesn't have to plot or punish. He simply moves on, and life does what life always does. It reveals, exposes, and corrects. He also understands that revenge interrupts this process. If he steps in to teach a lesson, the universe steps out. The person never learns, never faces themselves, never experiences the collapse their behavior deserves. By staying silent, he ensures the outcome unfolds naturally, without interference. He's not trying to control justice, he's allowing it. And ironically, this makes the consequences far more powerful. When someone loses a Sigma male, they eventually feel the cost. They miss the steadiness, the insight, the authenticity, the energy they once took for granted. That loss, subtle at first, overwhelming later, becomes the karma they cannot escape. Most importantly, trusting natural consequences keeps him aligned with his path. While others burn energy trying to make things right, he invests that energy in becoming better, wiser, sharper. Karma handles the past while he builds the future. And that's the real reason he never seeks revenge. Why waste time destroying someone else when life will do it for him, and far more accurately? He doesn't need to strike back. He only needs to step back. And the moment he does, everything begins to unfold exactly as it should. He focuses on self-elevation, not retaliation. A Sigma male knows that every minute spent plotting revenge is a minute stolen from his own evolution. While others become obsessed with teaching someone a lesson, he is already redirecting his focus toward becoming a stronger, more capable, more grounded version of himself. He understands that retaliation might bruise someone's ego, but self-elevation changes the entire landscape of his life. It shifts the power dynamic permanently. When he chooses growth over revenge, he is not letting anyone get away with anything. He is simply refusing to stay on the same level as the person who wronged him. He doesn't want to match their energy. He wants to rise so far above it that the betrayal becomes irrelevant in the bigger story of who he becomes. His mindset is strategic, not sentimental. He knows that retaliation pulls him backward, but self-improvement pushes him forward. So he uses pain as fuel, not for destruction, but for transformation. The betrayal strengthens his discipline. The disappointment sharpens his intuition. The loss expands his clarity. Instead of asking, "How do I hurt them back?" he asks, "How can I elevate myself so this never affects me again?" That shift in thinking is what separates him from the crowd. It's the silent moment where the Sigma decides his energy will go toward progress, not pettiness. And once he commits to that path, his focus becomes unstoppable. He trains, learns, evolves, and rebuilds with precision, turning what could have broken him into the very force that strengthens him. His self-elevation also becomes the real consequence for the person who hurt him. Nothing stings more than watching someone you try to diminish rise higher than you ever imagined. Nothing exposes guilt faster than seeing the person you wronged thrive without hesitation. And nothing feels more like karma than realizing that while you were focused on conflict, he was focused on becoming untouchable. His growth becomes the mirror that reflects every mistake, every betrayal, every act of disrespect, without him saying a single word. This is the kind of revenge only a Sigma understands. The revenge of becoming someone the past can no longer reach. By choosing self-elevation, he protects his mental space, his emotional clarity, and his long-term direction. He would rather build a life that makes retaliation unnecessary than waste time proving a point that doesn't matter. His success becomes the answer. His evolution becomes the closure. His transformation becomes the final word. And people eventually learn the truth he already knew. The greatest form of payback is becoming a version of yourself they could never diminish, control, or hold back. He knows silence hurts more than any reaction. A Sigma male understands the psychological weight of silence in a way most people never will. He knows that when someone wrongs him, they expect noise, anger, arguments, explanations, emotional outbursts. They expect a reaction they can analyze, defend against, or twist to their advantage. But when he gives them nothing, That is when the real impact hits. Silence removes the battlefield. It removes the opportunity for justification. It removes the comfort of knowing where he stands. It forces the other person to confront themselves without guidance, without cues, without emotional signals to follow. His silence becomes a mirror, and for those who acted out of selfishness, manipulation, or disrespect, that mirror becomes unbearable. His silence is not passive. It is deliberate. It is him withdrawing his energy, his validation, his presence, his emotional involvement. And for someone who once benefited from his patience, empathy, or depth, that loss feels like a free fall. People rarely realize how much stability a Sigma provides until it vanishes. His quiet distance becomes a void, and in that void, their own behavior echoes back at them louder than any confrontation ever could. While others argue to defend their ego, he uses silence to expose the truth. There is no debate, no negotiation, no attempt to fix the situation. Only a cold withdrawal that says more than words ever could. Silence also protects his power. The moment he reacts emotionally, the other person gains influence over his state of mind. By staying quiet, he guards his inner world and refuses to let anyone drag him into chaos. His calmness becomes unsettling because it signals something far more final than anger: detachment. Anger means you still care. Silence means you don't. And nothing hits harder than realizing a Sigma is no longer invested enough to speak. It is a psychological boundary that cannot be crossed, manipulated, or softened. It is the moment the other person understands the connection has shifted permanently. What makes his silence so powerful is that it places the responsibility squarely on the other person. They are left to fill in the blanks, question their choices, and replay their actions without reassurance or direction. Uncertainty becomes the consequence. Self-reflection becomes the punishment. And his absence becomes the answer they never wanted to face. A Sigma male doesn't weaponize silence to be cruel. He uses it because he refuses to waste his voice on those who have already shown they don't deserve it. In the end, silence becomes the closure, the lesson, and the boundary, all delivered without a single word. He walks away because indifference is the ultimate form of power. A Sigma male knows that the moment he becomes indifferent, the entire dynamic shifts. Anger can be challenged. Arguments can be fueled. Emotional reactions can be manipulated, twisted, or used as leverage. But indifference? Indifference is unbreakable. It is the quiet declaration that the person who once mattered no longer holds any position in his emotional universe. And that realization hits harder than any insult, revenge plan, or confrontation ever could. When a Sigma walks away with no anger, no explanation, no hesitation, he sends a silent message. You no longer have access to who I am. That emotional exit is more final and more devastating than any physical departure. He understands that indifference is not the lack of emotion, it's the mastery of it. It's the moment he decides that nothing the other person does can affect him anymore. They cannot trigger him. They cannot guilt him. They cannot pull him back into old patterns. He has mentally closed the chapter, burned the bridge, and stepped into a space where their existence no longer influences his direction. This terrifies people more than anger ever will, because indifference exposes the truth. They lost significance. They lost impact. They lost power. And the Sigma didn't need to announce it. His silence carried the message with chilling clarity. Indifference is also a strategy. Revenge keeps him tied to the pain. Confrontation keeps him tied to the conflict. Emotional reactions keep him tied to the pattern. But indifference cuts every single thread instantly. It is the cleanest, sharpest, most final boundary he can draw. When a Sigma becomes indifferent, he reclaims every ounce of energy he once gave.
He pours that reclaimed energy into his growth, his goals, and his inner evolution. He moves forward while the other person remains stuck in the moment of their mistake.
They replay the memories.
They question themselves. They look for closure he will never provide.
Meanwhile, he is already building something better without looking back.
And what makes his indifference so powerful is that it is earned.
It comes after observation, after reflection, after understanding exactly who someone is and choosing not to invest a single drop more. This is not avoidance, it is clarity. It is him recognizing that his life only expands when he stops shrinking himself for the wrong people.
So he walks away with no anger in his chest and no regret in his mind. Because nothing commands more respect or more fear than a man who can disappear from your life, while staying completely unshaken by yours. When a Sigma refuses revenge, people mistake it for weakness until they realize it was the strongest move he could make. He never lowers himself to the level of those who harm him. He never wastes energy fighting battles that don't deserve his presence. He rises, he evolves, he outgrows, and while others stay trapped in conflict, he builds a life untouched by the chaos they created. His silence becomes the closure they never wanted. His detachment becomes the lesson they never forget. And his evolution becomes the answer to every betrayal he refused to react to. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 6 reasons hit you the hardest? Drop the word untouched in the comments so I know you watched this until the end and resonate with the Sigma path. And if you want more insights into silent power, psychological mastery, and the mindset that makes Sigma males unstoppable, subscribe to UltraWise and stay ahead of the crowd that still doesn't understand the strength of walking away.